We've got a relatively light agenda, and I think that we do need to accept it on behalf of both municipalities. So if I could, a motion to accept our agenda as presented, please.
Councillor Ross.
Thank you, and apparently Councillor Ross has joined us as well. Thank you. So all those in favor of the agenda as presented?
In favor.
And that is unanimous. Thank you.
Okay.
Reeve
I
Shepherd?
also, yes, I would, a motion to accept the agenda as presented. Dana, thank you. All in favor? That's unanimous.
So we do have a couple of items before us for discussion then. How about if we start with the Lacombe Athletic Park Association item? Who would like discussions on that?
So is there any questions from my council, from Lacombe County Council, on the LAPA request? Clarification? Comments? Dwayne?
This might be for Operations Director Bill Cade. I noticed in the past we've done quite a bit of work in kind with the LAPA project in the past. Is it typical where we do a rough percentage of 20-25% cash, 30% cash, 70% work in kind, or is it more of an analysis of what we have looking at us to decide what we would do? I would see us being able to do quite a bit of work in kind on this project. Is that in your thoughts as well?
Yeah, and again, depending on council's wishes, we could come up with any type of formula based on cash and work in kind. But yeah, it's definitely doable.
Would we have to sit down with the people at LAPA to look at architectural drawings and that kind of stuff and decide what we would be able to do then, I guess, or how does that usually work?
Yeah, typically we would, and we do. I sit on the board with this committee, and we could look at the proposals and come up with suggestions. Typically, it would go through council and then approve that way. But yeah, we would work.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Did everyone from the city hear Bill's response on that?
I did.
Yes.
It just seemed like his mic wasn't working, so I just wanted to be sure that you, all of you, heard it. Any other questions, Brenda?
I did have a question about work in kind as well. It looks like there's a fair bit in this project, and how that affects the grant that is being applied for. Until Bill really knows what work in kind is and his workload here at the county, is that going to cause any glitches with the amount that is proposed in the grant? And do we know how many hours that'll maybe take away from your regular operations, Bill?
Yeah, good questions. And again, those are all the what ifs that we'd have to analyze once we determine what the work would be. So I don't know, as far as the grant application goes, I don't know what can be eligible for grant for work in kind from the municipality. But again, and I won't know until we sit down and look at all the work that needs to be done, what I can dedicate as far as work in kind goes.
Tim?
Yeah, no, there would be no impact on the on the grant funding whatsoever if we were to provide work in kind rather than just all cash.
Brenda?
Well, I guess my question was if Bill has enough time in his schedule for the allotment that is work in kind. We're almost committing, I think, to that amount of dollars if that is the way the grant is being submitted. So that's why I bring it up. I mean, yes, I like helping all communities, but I like serving our citizens as well. So just something to chew on a bit.
Any other questions? Dana?
Yeah, in our information that we have here from our December 16th meeting, it says, with respect to Lacombe County resident usage of this facility, we've not yet determined the ratio of Lacombe County versus City of Lacombe students attending the schools in the City of Lacombe. Do we have those numbers?
We do not have those numbers yet. We will provide that information as part of our analysis on the application once it's presented to council.
And the anticipation of a date for the presentation to council?
Well, we're hoping to take it to our January 31st council meeting. You know, it's been kind of held in abeyance for some time, and it would be nice to dispense with it.
Okay. Any other questions from this, and John?
Yeah. What is, it's outlined here that in the past, county contributions have been close to, for LAPA, have been close to $850,000. What's the level of past commitment to LAPA from the city? Do we have those numbers?
I would have to defer that question to the city. Matt, do you have that information?
I don't have the exact number in front of me. I know we did pull that information recently, and it was around the same. I want to say 900,000, but maybe Director Lapointe, do you have that exact number?
Not handy, but I would concur that it's roughly 900,000.
Right, and I'm sure.
Thank you.
I'll let you know if I find something otherwise.
Appreciate that. Thanks. One
Yes,
more, if I
go
may.
ahead.
The package that Mr. Timmons handed out this morning, I don't understand that. The Section E budget, small stream funding.
Oh, this is for the pond, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's the next one. My apologies.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions from this side at all? I guess I do have a question. Just wondering, I know that the city seems to have already committed to this, and or at least it would seem that they have. Should the county not be there for the full amount that is they're anticipating from us, I guess I'm just curious to know what the fallback could potentially be if to get them the money that they are needing to make sure this thing gets completed successfully. Do we know if there's a fallback plan in the event that, number one, the grant doesn't come through to the full amount that they're expecting, or if municipal funding isn't there? I don't know. From what I understand, the city's commitment is $250,000 one year and $250,000 the next year. Does that create problems in terms of timing? I'm just curious about those questions. Anybody have the answers?
I don't think that the city has had any indication that spreading the money out over 2 years was an issue.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't want to prejudge or speak on behalf of LAPA, but if they don't have funding in hand, I think probably they're just going to have to do some additional fundraising or defer the project until they have enough cash in the bank until they can actually go ahead and complete it.
Okay. Sounds good. Any other questions from Lacombe County staff? No? Okay, Mr. Chair, I think that seems to be fine from this side in terms of questions.
Okay, thank you. We have someone joining us from, by telephone, I believe, 6601, and their icon appears to be flashing. Is someone calling from that number that wishes to speak? Apparently not. CAO Gowdy, Ed?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to confirm for Councillor Ireland that the number is 887,500, so 887,500 from the city. And to clarify that it is 250 that's been committed for 2022, but there's been no firm adoption of any budget for 2023 beyond acceptance of the plan as information. So I would say there is still an opportunity for council potentially to make some decisions around that 250 that's allocated in 2023. That is not guaranteed. The 2022 number has been allocated.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions or concerns from the city?
Councilor Ross here. I feel maybe it's a little premature to make a decision as a joint council until county of, perhaps both city of Macomb, the county of Macomb have had it on their agendas as indicated, CEO Tim Timmons for their January 31st, and perhaps just throwing this out there to CEO Gowdy and our council, do we put this on an agenda for further funding long-term going beyond the years that we already have committed? I feel this is kind of maybe to make decisions today, I guess is just, I think this is still a lot to be determined as individual councils as commitment, I think. I don't know, just discussion, anybody?
So are you referring to the ongoing operational costs? Is that the point?
Well, operation and capital, do we continue beyond? Is that a more reasonable that they have the funds in place? I know it sounds like I'm to understand that obviously LAPA wants to go ahead with this in 2022 to be more immediate, or yeah, that's kind of, do each individual councils come forth together after the January 31st county council meeting, so it's more definitive of what each role wants to be financially?
Well, it appears that based on what CEO Timmons just said, that we would definitely, I believe, have a good sense of our level of support after our January 31st meeting. And as for future operating, I don't believe, Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe we've ever seen any, have we seen projections, like 3-year projections on what their anticipated future operating costs are going to be or anything like that?
No. Yeah, the agreement that we currently have in place with LAPA for ongoing operational support, I believe this year is the final year, and they've made a request of us already that the next term of the agreement, I think they have asked that we increase our contributions by $5,000 a year. We've maintained our same financial commitment for the past number of years, and they haven't had an increase, so that will have to come before council as well. But just getting back to Councillor Ross's question, I don't think the intent of this meeting is for both councils to make a decision together. Really, the intent was just to talk about any outstanding issues and then refer it back to our respective councils for a decision. And it sounds like the city has already committed 50% of their contribution in 2022. They will have to make a decision in 2023. And again, Lacombe County Council will be deliberating this issue and likely making a decision here at the end of this month.
So our present level of operating support is what, 30,000?
I believe that's what it is, Barb.
Okay. Yep. Just for Councillor Ross's information, the county's annual support is about 30,000 a year at this point for operating.
Thank you for that, CEO Gowdy. The city's current operational direct monetary is 50,000.
50,000 plus about 15,000 for utilities.
In addition to that, and maintenance work as well, or is that included in the
Yeah, there is some maintenance contributions, so there might be some sweeping of the parking area every once in a while, but it's fairly.
Okay. So I guess just to be open about it, it was not exactly a lengthy discussion in the city, other than to include the two items in our budget. I'm sorry, the two annual contributions in our budget, I think is a fair statement. I certainly don't have any problem with opening or having an additional discussion if council so desires. And that way it'd be
I guess
a little easier to formalize.
Mr. Chair, I do have one additional question, if I might. The city is providing 50,000, the county is providing 30,000. I'm sorry, I don't have the operating budget for the annual operating budget at my fingertips, but I'm just wondering, are there others who are participating in funding the operating costs, i.e. the gala? I mean, they do have their gala. Is that largely for fundraising for capital? Do we know what their total annual operating costs are?
Yeah, I don't have that information in front of me. I believe when Lacombe made their presentation, they did provide us with their operating budget, and they do receive funding from ME Global, and then obviously, rental fees make up a significant portion, albeit with COVID over the last couple of years, that line item has decreased substantially, so.
Director Lapointe, do you happen to have those figures in front of you, what the annual operating budgets are for the Lapa Park?
I am just tracking them down as we speak.
Thank you.
Pardon me for interrupting, but I think the Lapa annual fundraiser is put for reserves for turf replacement, if I'm correct, if I recall.
While we're looking for that information, does anyone have any additional comments or questions? I don't see any hands up. Councillor Hoekstra? Any concerns?
No concerns, sir.
There, now you activated your, right, there we go.
Brenda, you have a question?
Do you still receive annual sponsorship from ME Global? Are they still sponsoring the project annually for operations?
I think he's just checking into that, Brenda.
That'll be part of the answer coming up.
Potentially.
It just struck me that it's always been a sponsorship.
I do have the numbers in front of me if you'd like, but I do see that CAO Gowdy was hoping to make a comment.
Before or after the numbers, Chief Gowdy?
I was just trying to beat Guy to provide you the numbers.
Go ahead, Matt.
I have them here. The city of Lacombe's operating allowance is $50,000 per year. Lacombe County's operating allowance until 2020. So it sounds like actually you might be outside of the agreement right now, is $30,000 per year. Facility rentals account for about $30,000 a year. Advertising, concession, gate receipts, and fundraising is about $75,000. They do have a reserve of about $440,000 set aside for major facility repairs and artificial turf replacement, to Councillor Ross's point, and major expenditures for the association typically would include about 40,000 of employment and contract services, about $35,000 of utilities, field building, snow removal and maintenance, so just general maintenance is about 33 to 35, and then they put 50,000 a year away for turf replacement.
And has there been any indication that what those numbers will be after the recent build and then the addition of the track? Has there been any requests for increases in maintenance or any kind of an outline as to what maintenance costs will be?
Not here, no, not included in the presentation, but I do recall talking with them. And there would be, I think it's about an additional 15,000 a year on their $200,000 a year budget related to asset depreciation and funding the replacement of the additional assets that would be constructed. So fairly nominal, but yeah, between that, probably between 10 and 20,000.
Dana?
So then that answers the question. I guess, Brenda, ME Global doesn't participate in the operating funding. Theirs is just a capital contribution.
I think that the ME Global component would be included in the $75,000 of fundraising that they themselves generate.
Okay. Okay.
Is my expectation.
Okay, thanks.
Very good. So unless anybody has any additional questions then, is that the general consensus is that after the meetings at the end of this month and an opportunity for additional discussion, we will get together again, or is this just an administrative function? How do we see that playing out?
Any comments from this side? Tim, did you want to? Oh, Cora, sorry. Sorry, Cora.
Councillor Hoekstra, go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. So our commitment to this project happened kind of covertly during our budget talks. And I say that covertly because we were addressing other things. And I wonder if Lacombe City Council has to review if this could come back as an agenda item to our meetings. I think our financial situation has changed significantly. And so as the county is reviewing it at the end of January, I wondered if CAO Gowdy, if we could revisit this without it dismantling our whole approval of our budget, if that makes sense. Because I gather that by approving our budget in December, we approved our commitment to this project, but I'm not sure we all understood. I shouldn't put it that way. I didn't understand that we were committing this significant amount of money to this project at that point.
So certainly the budget approval is an approval to make expenditures. And so right now, council has approved funding of this project. And that was included, as you said, with the capital budget. Having said that, of course, if council would like to come back and revisit that item or any in the capital budget, that's your prerogative to do so. I would just need direction that you want to do that. And then I could bring it back on the, well, as soon as the 24th, really. It wouldn't include any new information that you haven't seen before, but it would give an opportunity for an additional discussion if you wanted to.
Councillor Hoekstra, go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. Just as a follow-up, I guess I appreciate the county's closer scrutiny of this project again, and I guess I would appreciate if we as a city would also give it a little bit closer scrutiny, just in light of the the challenges we are going to be meeting in 2022 and 2023 financially.
Mr. Chair, I guess one other question that we would have is Councillor Winick is not here today, but one of his concerns was the consistency of fees across the county, user fees across the county, and some clarification on that. I wonder if it's not worth us looking into that as well, because I think there was, it seems like there was, it was a little bit murky as to what, you know, what the user fees were for county participants. I know that there was what seemed to have come out of that discussion from my perspective was that there were no fees during school hours, but preschool hours and post-school hours, there were user fees. And I don't know that we actually really got a real clear indication as to if there was differences in those fees based on the community or the municipality that was using them, so, or the school that was using them, i.e. the Christian school, for example, as opposed to a public school. And a community school like Bentley or Phil or Clive, were there differences? And I think we probably need some clarification on that from LAPA.
Very good. I'm sure they would be happy to supply that. I was not aware of any of the users being treated differently in that regard, so it'd be interesting to find out.
I don't know that they are, Mr. Chair, but I think we need clarification just to confirm.
Okay, very good.
Excuse me.
Oh, just 1 second, please. Chief Gowdy, you had your hand up earlier.
Just my understanding of that, and of course, I'm sure LAPA would be happy to clarify, but was that there's actually two preferred user groups, that being the Buccaneers and the Wolf Creek School Division, who participate in other ways, and they get preferred rates. So it's not that there's any differentiation between county users versus city users, but that basically there's two preferred user groups, being the Buccaneers and the Wolf Creek School Division. However, of course, they'll provide clarification if you send them that question.
Thank you. Councillor Ross?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Yeah, I think some of the discussion previously in December was more the number of users. I think there was some for example, Bentley or, you know, or any school across the county, that what the usage was. I think is more towards, yeah, that way, if I recall. So very valid point, because I think it's good information for the county to have them numbers for their own discussions as number of users per facility across the county.
So who would be the appropriate contact person to receive that information and distribute it to both administrations then?
Yeah, we've actually already been in contact with Wolf Creek Public Schools to try to access that information.
Okay, but we'd also like to receive it directly from LAPA, would we not?
Yeah, actually, we reached out to them just for clarification on their fee structure. Matt's absolutely correct. In that Wolf Creek, users outside of, from what I understand, school hours are provided a preferred rate. Our concern here is, you know, if in fact we're going to be providing an equal contribution from the county, then other school districts that have school participants from both the city and the county, i.e. Star Catholic, as well as the Christian schools, should also be entitled to those preferred rates during non-school hours. So that will be a discussion that we will have to have with LAPA as well.
Very good. I mean, certainly valid enough questions, I guess.
Brenda, you had a question?
I would be interested in other user groups that there are, or if all the schools are going to be special user groups, who does that leave? Just the occasional annual special events, individuals, I guess.
Brenda, you had a question?
Just during the discussion, I believe I heard that her agreement has expired. Tim, is that something we need to look into?
Our operating agreement, I believe we have one more year on it, Brenda.
Oh,
I think 2021 was the last year, 2021 or 2022.
Dana?
I think Michael has the answer.
Michael can answer
Sorry.
that first.
Sorry. Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, so you renewed it in December of 2020 for 5 more years, to 2025.
Oh, so we're 2025. Okay, good. Just if that had slipped through the cracks, it was important to make sure it was in place. Thank you.
Okay. Bill, did you have a, okay, Dana?
Okay, so regarding preferred users and then non-preferred users, an example would be how LAPA gave us the information that Rimby football team uses it. And so they obviously haven't paid anything into the capital, so they would not be a preferred user group, even though they're in Wolf Creek. So that probably needs to be discussed as well.
Yeah, I don't know. That is a very good question. Rimby being part of Wolf Creek,
but not
part of this. Yeah. A few things to sort out, I guess.
Well, and then they also had mentioned, my apologies, but
Go ahead.
I think some of the town of Black Falls were some of the users as well. So again, non-contributors, so they wouldn't get a preferred rate is what we would need to clarify, right?
Exactly. Okay. Okay, so I think there's a few things to, just for clarification, just so we clearly understand all the nuances. So I think we can reach out to Wolf Creek, or to Wolf Creek, but also to LAPA for the clarification on that.
Very good. So we've got a clear direction forward here once that is received to bring all of these items forward at an upcoming meeting, both city and county. Is that's a fair statement?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, we did not hear your question or your comment there.
Just to recap where we're at with this item, we are going to receive these additional items for billing rates and whatnot for all groups, and bring them forward to our respective councils along with any financial items that we wish for discussion at a meeting this month. And then are we prepared to meet once again, or we don't have any need to? I just want everybody to be on the same.
Okay, so just for clarity, the chair is asking whether we want to, once we've received all this information as individual councils, do we want to meet again, or are we prepared to move ahead on our own without further meetings between the two municipalities? Any thoughts on that? Dana?
I feel that once we get the questions answered that we have regarding like the Christian schools, et cetera, and the fallback plan if the funding doesn't come in from the feds or the province, I feel we could make that decision ourselves once we have the information we're looking for.
Okay.
That's my thoughts.
Anyone else? Staff? Council? I think we're good on this side, Mr. Chair. I believe we have a few people nodding our heads that we could move ahead without a further meeting with the city.
Okay, very good. There again, it's not a problem one way or another, just so we all know, and that's fine if that's the direction we'll take. That's certainly fine with us. I believe I haven't had any indications otherwise. So I think that concludes our discussion on the LAPA request. One last call for questions or concerns.
Need a motion for receive it as information?
I think we're going to do them both together, are we not? What was the?
Makes sense. I think it makes sense to do them both together.
I sure do. Especially with the two councils, this is a cumbersome thing, electronically to have too many. So let's move on to the Macomb Fish and Game request for the accessible dock project. Who would like to open discussions on that item?
Any comments or questions from Lacombe County Council on the Lacombe Fish and Game presentation? Dana?
Well, and it could just be that I heard it wrong in December, but it seems like the costs have gone up. And maybe I only heard what I wanted to hear in December, that I looked at the smaller numbers. But they've gone up a fair bit. And again, we have the situation, if they don't get their funding, what is the fallback plan? Are they going to ask more from the municipalities? Are they going to fundraise more?
Councillor Creel, I don't believe that the costs have went up. I believe that the organization presented 3 different scenarios of level of project build, and perhaps you were focused on the lesser of the 3. And from what I understand, for the purposes of grant funding and whatnot, that they have chosen the more robust of the 3 plans at this time. I think that's probably where the confusion comes in. Chief Gowdy?
Well, yeah. In my notes, for whatever reason, I have option 2 is 185,000, and option 3 is 247,000. I think we're looking at option 3 here at 320,000. But understanding that materials have gone up, I get that. But yeah.
Fair question. CAO Gowdy?
Yeah, just referring to the email that the president, Brad Pallister, had sent me. He says, please note, I have increased the total project budget in the presentation from 270,000 to 320,000 to accommodate for GST and to accommodate for the potential for increased costs from the contractor in steel, lumber, and labor. The contractor has assured us that he can tailor the project to the budget based on the total grants received from the Cfip and contribution from other partners. So it has gone up a little bit, and it's to account for GST as well as some uncertainty in material costs, it sounds like.
Dana?
Yeah, and because this is a volunteer organization, would they get the GST back?
I'm not sure if they're
just part of it would be.
We can all GST small portion of the increase anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions, Brenda?
Well, I see the little bit of a budget here in front of us. What you have written down for funding that's secure in hand is equal to the 320. So is this grant a 50-50 basis? Is that what you are hoping for? Or will the grant be 75-25 and you'll be coming back? I'm not real familiar with this grant. So is this a 50-50 and the 350 should come from the grant as well to cover the project?
What are the rules on the Cfip grant? Do any of the staff know?
Yeah, it is the Cfip grant. It's not necessarily a 50-50 grant program. Just looking at their budget, it would appear that the maximum request that they're making under the small funding grant program is $125,000. So that would be less than 50% of the total project cost, Brenda.
Okay. So then the municipal funding of 115, is that City of Lacombe or is that looking at some county contribution as well.
Yeah, my understanding is that is between the two municipalities. That's not just limited to the city.
So this small CFIP grant, the maximum funding under that grant is 125,000, and so they're looking for 115. That's how I read this budget. Is that correct? Okay, just for clarity. LAPA, on the other hand, would be applying for the larger CFIP grant funding that's available. So, any other questions from?
No, I'm good. Thank you. Sorry.
And I understand there's some other questions from your team as well, Reeve Shepherd.
I'm not seeing any. Any further questions on this one? Dana, Tim?
Yeah, just a question to the city. So besides agreeing to provide a letter of support to accompany their grant application, has the city had any discussion on what likely is going to be a request from Lacombe Fish and Game for support for this project? Because Lacombe County has not. The only discussion that our council has had is relative to the request for the letter of support for the grant.
Yes, so we have not had any discussion beyond the discussion. Well, and actually that was in our consent agenda, so we did not even have discussion around the letter for the support. At this point, all we have pointed them to is to apply through the Community Builder Fund, which would be similar to your RC2 or whatever the capital side is. And they haven't submitted yet, so that there hasn't really been an opportunity for discussion as of yet.
Dwayne?
I think, at the initial time of presentation, there were some questions regarding timing of this project. They were the Lacombe Fish and Game Association organization was extremely aggressive in their timing and was hoping to accomplish this project, I think, this season, and that has since changed to be a fall of 2022, spring of 2023 construction project, from what I recall.
So Dwayne, did you have a question?
Accurate.
Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Further to Mayor Creasy's comments, yeah, he is correct on Lacombe Fish and Game being very aggressive on trying to get this project started, and they've had to shift gears. But one time constraint was getting in the application for the CVEP grant for 2022, and that had to be done on the 15th of January. So that was the intention, I believe, of Lacombe Fish and Game to get the support of both municipalities, because that had to be in their application for the grant. And so that's now become the first step, in my understanding, of this process. And the progress of putting in the accessible permanent dock will be a winter project 2022-2023, the first step being getting the grant application in right now. And so that's what the letters of support were for.
Okay.
Appreciate that, Councillor West. Anyone else? Silence is deafening. I do not see any other questions or concerns.
Councillor Dana Crowell has a question, Mr. Chair.
Well, so
Sure.
I guess
What?
the process is when the Fish and Game wants the money from us, they'll come to us, they'll submit a budget of all the projected expenses, et cetera, and so we're gonna have some time with that now, because they probably won't apply till they get their CFIP, right?
I would suspect so.
Yeah, okay.
And I don't know the timing on the CFIP, when they sort of roll out their approvals or declines. Does anyone, here know how long it takes them? Michael, do you happen to know?
Based on the website, it says July for the January applications, but province plus or minus. But
Okay. So it looks like it'll be summer before they get to find out for sure whether their application has been accepted or not anyway, so I think we have some time. Brenda?
Just to be clear in my mind, the application has been sent in, met the January 15 deadline.
That's my understanding, yeah.
Okay, and did the city write a letter of support, or you just looked at the consent agenda item? I got lost in that, sorry.
The city did provide a letter of support.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the county side? Doesn't look like we have any further questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. One last chance for the entire group. Speak up now. Very good. So we do have a couple of items to receive for information, and we'll do our minutes, which I glossed over as I did not have a agenda in front of me. So I think each council should receive these items as information thus far. Is that what I recall from our agenda? Like I said, I'm struggling with my iPad here, trying to get enough information up at once.
Okay, so I would take a motion to receive the information for the contents of this budget, et cetera, for information.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Dwayne. Any questions, comments? All in favor? That's unanimous. We're done on this side, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Reeve Shepherd, appreciate it. City Council? Have a motion, please. Councilor Hibbs?
I can make that motion for the city.
Very good. All those in favor?
All in favor? Or I'm in favor.
That is unanimous, thank you. And everyone has had an opportunity to review the minutes from our previous joint meeting. It was a lengthy one. I believe there's 2 items on it.
We've already done that.
But we should keep our paperwork in order here. So if we could, someone has looked at those. Councilor Hibbs?
We need to move that we accept the minutes as presented.
Thank you.
We circulated them, but.
Yeah, Chair Creasy?
You're fine with the minutes?
Yeah, I don't.
Oh. Mr. Timmons.
Yeah, sorry about that. Unless I missed an email, I don't recall getting a copy of those minutes, so our council hasn't seen them yet. So we will, once we receive them. Oh, you do have the minutes?
We do?
I believe that they were circulated
by email, were they not?
Who would they be from? I can search.
We'll deal with that in our council, Mr. Chair, at our next council meeting. Because I don't think all of the councillors here have received a copy of those minutes, so we'll deal with it at our next council meeting.
Come from?
Fair enough. We do have a motion to accept those minutes from the city's end as made by Councillor Hibbs. So we'll just vote on that and get that one out of the way at least. All those in favor?
In favor.
And that is unanimously accepted as well. Thank you. So I don't believe there's any additional information or any additional business that we have to conduct today. Hopefully someone's got a copy of the agenda. Is that where we're at? Chief Gowdy, you've got a copy of the agenda there. Are we missing anything?
No, you are good to go. That is today's business.
Very good. Well, thanks everyone for attending. I guess all we need is the each side to give the motion that we've been looking for to conclude our business.
I guess I just have one comment. I realize this felt a little awkward today because of the Zoom or Teams approach that we had to take, but I do believe these conversations between the two councils jointly is a good one, because I think there's questions that your council may have that we don't have or never thought about, and vice versa. And I do think on these joint projects, this is an important step. So I realize that even though it was felt a bit awkward today, that this is still a very important process from my perspective, and I appreciate your council and our council taking the time to do this together.
Thank you, Reeve Shepherd. Appreciate that. They are extremely awkward. These, there's no doubt about it, but important nonetheless. So thank you for recognizing that.
And I do appreciate staff support as well. It's as difficult for them as it is for us, and your staff and our staff have always been supportive and got us the information we need. So thank you to the staff as well.
So just for reference, if anybody is trying to locate those minutes and whatnot, those were included in the agenda package that our legislative coordinator, Bella Bono, had sent out to both respective councils some time ago, if we're looking for them, just so you know where we're at. Not that that is critical at this time. Councillor Gullickson, did you have your hand up for a motion for us?
I will move that we adjourn the meeting on our side.
Appreciate that. All those in favor? Very good. Reeve Shepherd?
A motion to adjourn. Alan? All in favor? That's unanimous. Thanks again.